So we're going to start off with some players. Josh, I'll ask you first. Throw out some names of breakout players you're monitoring.
Biggest breakout player for me, and I mentioned in a previous episode, and I'm going to keep mentioning it honestly until it goes away. Cohen Carr. I am so completely convinced that Cohen Carr turns into an All American. Like, I don't know how else to say. He's going to be the main ball handler on an Izzo led Michigan State team that arguably has Final Four potential. He could arguably average 15 a night. He's the best rim finisher I've ever seen since like maybe Jaden Ivey in terms of Big Ten comparisons. He's a great 3-point shooter when he wants to be. I think he's probably going to get better. He's going into his junior year. He arguably could get drafted that year as well if he really puts things together. And I could see just a beautiful season out of this guy.
Yeah, I love that Carr pick a lot. I mean, I really do think there's so much room for growth that he still has. I mean, he's already one of the best athletes in the game. You see the highlight dunks literally almost every time Michigan State plays. And I think if he's able to develop more of a back to the basket aspect to his style of play, kind of maybe similar to what we saw to Zion in his 1 year at Duke. Now, not to, of course, probably nowhere close to that level of just dominance that Zion kind of was that 1 year. But if you can do that and also add a little bit more consistency to the outside shot, then I think he definitely has a chance to do what you just said. My first pick is Cannon Catchings. I definitely think he flew under the radar this past year at BYU, just considering how much talent they had between Richie Saunders, Edward Demon, and some of the other guys in that Cougars program. But now he's probably going to be the number one option on a Georgia team this year. I know they did land Jordan Ross, so that might take the ball out of Cannon Catching's hands a little bit. But he's a dynamic 3-level scorer who definitely has a lot of upside that hasn't been really seen yet by the viewing majority of the college basketball watchers. And I think he has a chance to showcase that in Georgia this year. And again, I mean, I think of the one game where he shot 100% of the field, had 27 points, something along those lines for BYU this past year. And again, microwave scorer definitely has a chance to break out this year.
Definitely. For me, my best transfer portal breakout star is Abdi Bashir Jr. He's going from Monmouth to K-State. He honestly, and I'm probably not going to regret this decision unless he doesn't play out the way I think he is probably going to be the best shooting guard in the country.
Bold
He
take.
was electric at Monmouth. Literally lights out, unconscious levels of shooting. Could be a 40 to 45% 3-point shooter at the high major level. He's quick. He's a little skinny, I will say, but he fits that spot up shooting role. He can do on the dribble. He can do off the dribble. He has such a diverse way of getting to the basket, getting to the line when he wants to as well. I don't think he needs to be the first option on a pretty loaded K-State team that arguably could change a lot of heads going into the season.
Yeah, I love that pick too. I mean, I think Bashir is going to be awesome at K-State. What he did at Monmouth this past year was just incredible. It is just shooting from beyond the arc. So I definitely think he'll have a big year out there. My next pick is Michael Ajayi. Now, I definitely felt the entire year that he was probably the best pro prospect on this past year's Gonzaga team. Now, that doesn't mean I think he was the best player. But I think it's important to consider he's playing along the likes of Graham Ike, Khalif Battle, Nemhard, and Hickman as well. And it was a crowded kind of wing front court type of lineup that Gonzaga had, and he maybe didn't get the minutes that he probably could have if he were at another program. Well, now he is at Butler. He's probably going to be one of the main guys for this Butler program next year. For forget the name off the top of my head, Butler coach. Sure, it'll come back to me, but again, I think Michael Ajayi is a pro, whether it's NBA or overseas, and I think he's going to have a chance to show now that he's going to be in a bigger role and have the ball in his hands a lot more.
Yeah, I'm looking out for him. He's definitely a guy that I didn't really see about on my radar until you brought him up, but I'm keeping him in my ideas. Honestly, my biggest Power 5 transfer right now is Ellie Cadeau. He's a guy that everyone has always talked about. I honestly thought he would have been a freshman, a one-and-done freshman at UNC if he did a little bit better. He just underperformed, honestly, twice now, given how UNC has done, and especially last year, given the lack of a team that UNC was able to grow on. I don't think that's really on him. It's more or less on just Hubert Davis and the whole squad as a whole. But him making the decision to leave UNC, unironically, is the best thing he's done. Going to Michigan, getting a very likely starting role. And regardless of the Axel Lindenberg decision, he's going to be probably close to doubling his points per game, doubling his minutes if even. He really plays the type of point guard role that they're going to need. I don't know if he can be an All American. I think at right now I'd give him an honorable mention, to say the least. But he's the type of guy that could find his way into the draft boards for next year if he's going to play the way I think he will.
Most definitely. I definitely think Elliott and his family kind of came out and said that UNC might have never been the greatest fit for him. I definitely think Michigan is going to have a play style more fitted to Ellie Cadeau's liking. I'm definitely excited how he plays out in Ann Arbor this next year. I think Michigan. We'll see what happens with the Axel, but they definitely have a decent chance to be a solid team this year. My next breakout player is Jalil Bethea. He obviously is transferred from Miami to Alabama. Now, he only averaged around 7 points per game at Miami, but he definitely had some flashes of being a big upside player. And I think he has a chance to be that at Bama this next year in Tuscaloosa, just considering you have to remember what they've lost. They lose Chris Youngblood, they lose Mark Sears, Grant Nelson. They're going to need to replace those guys with a lot more scoring. And Jalil Bethea is going to be asked to do a lot of that scoring. And I think he's going to be able to do it. And I have a tough time seeing Jalil Bethea not breaking out. At least not being somewhere in the realm of a 13 to 15 point per game guy.
Yeah, I certainly see it too. Another big guy that I think a lot of people are kind of on the radar on, but I wanted to mention is Floyd Badunga. He originally transferred out of Kansas, but self-convinced him to come back. And I think that's a big, big underlying tone of how Self expects Floyd to play next year. He didn't have the worst freshman year, but that Kansas team just sucked. It really was one of the most disappointing seasons for any school in general, and especially for a self-led Kansas team. You don't really expect that from him. And I think because of the whole decision for him to come back, it gives Flory a quote-unquote second chance, perhaps. I think you can definitely see a lot more minutes. He's likely to be seeing a starting role and will definitely be probably the next best player to David Peterson. And maybe even if Darren Williams does go there, he'll have a second or third fiddle role, which I think can play perfectly into his game. He is still a model player, and I don't hate to see him being a 15 per game scorer if he actually wants to.
Yeah, I hear you out there. And my
And
last
I think
breakout.
season like that.
Right. I mean, yeah, Floyd definitely has a chance to break out. I worry a little bit about him being more so of a rim running five, but he brings great rim protection, really freak athlete. Can play the 4 or the 5. So I'm excited to see Floyd in year 2 in Lawrence. But my last breakout player is Seth Trimble. Now, this is a guy who I think a lot of people, including myself, expected to break out this past season. Didn't necessarily do that stats wise, but I think he averaged around 11 points per game on the year. But you have to remember, RJ Davis did finally graduate from North Carolina, and they're going to need him to do a lot of scoring this year out on the wing. I mean, he's showcased he can be a 3-level scorer. I definitely think at points this year he did kind of show improvements from 2 years ago to this past season, and I would hope to think that he continues to do that. I mean, I think he's a really good player, and I think a lot of people kind of forgot about him just because he didn't have the greatest year stats-wise, or at least the expectations that a lot of people had for him. But I think this year he definitely has a chance to finally reach that level that we all kind of thought that he was going to reach this past year. And considering that they lost RJ Davis, they're going to need him to if UNC wants to be any good this year. So I got Seth Trimble.
Yeah, that's honestly a good choice too. I think one door opens, another closes for a guy like Trimble, and he kind of like mirrors like Cadeau in that way as well. But my fifth guy is Dylan Swain, transferred from Xavier to Texas. He's joining his coach at their new program, and he's a super under the weather guy. Honestly, got to thank Kanaye for bringing him up. Otherwise, I would have forgotten about him entirely. He'll likely, alongside maybe Jordan Pope, lead the ball handling skills at Texas. He will probably be their main player. And I don't think Texas is going to really be shying away from the tournament. They're likely to be a bubble team or somewhere where they were last year, if anything much. And he could be a 20 per game guy. He was really good at Xavier last year. He showed a lot of talent alongside Ryan Conwell, making it to that first 4 and in the subsequent tournament. I think he can be a really, really big influence, both in the SEC, but also for Texas as a whole. And definitely don't forget his name. I'll tell you that as much.
Yeah, I love the Dalen Swain pick. I'm really high on Dalen Swain. I think he's gonna be awesome at Texas this year. And I actually did forget to mention one guy. My mistake. I don't know how I forgot to mention him, but Jalen Stewart at UConn this upcoming season. He's a guy who I project will be in a starting role after kind of playing off the bench the last 2 years. Didn't play all too much his freshman year. Was definitely in a little bit of a larger role this year. Definitely felt he should have got more minutes than what he got this past season at UConn. But I definitely think he's a guy who can develop and become a double digit per game scorer this year for this UConn program. And I think they're really going to need him to be, just considering he will probably be in a starting role, I would think, at that three wing spot. And he's had big moments throughout his career so far at UConn. I think immediately back to the Big East tournament 2 years ago in the championship game against Marquette, where he comes off the bench when it was a tight game and he bangs three threes in a row and kind of gets UConn the separation they need to go on a run and win that game. And then this past year, think back to first half against Memphis when him and Terrace Reed really kept UConn in the game in Maui in that first half. Villanova was another great example where I think he finished with 16 points and defended Eric Dixon really well. And then he's had moments where he's had really hot starts to games, like at Marquette this past year on Marquette Day, where he made three straight threes, or against St. John's at Gamble before they, of course, eventually lost that game. But again, I really like Stewie a lot. I think he needs to improve as a defender, but he's already showcased that he has a lot of offensive upside, three-level scorer type guy. And when he's hot, I think he could be a really good player. And he's an athlete too. So I'm really excited to see Stewie in year three in stores.